Hello, Bets Golden here. Thanks so much for joining me today. I have a really fun project that's been kind of rolling around in my head for 2 or 3 months. I painted my desk recently this color and I used this brush, and when it was all said and done, I'm like, that is cool. That should go in my craft room on my wall somewhere. And I knew that I wanted to do a steampunk Finnabair type collage on it, but I wanted this beautiful jade color to pop. So anyway, I knew that I wanted to put on a canvas. So then it just dawned on me 2 days ago. I finally had it all come together in my head when I was going through my Lisa Kettell pieces, and I found this blank that I had ordered. I ordered 5 of these, and I'm like, oh my gosh, wouldn't that be cool on that? So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to do the canvas with you, show you how to do this technique. It is stunning. It looks beautiful when it's done. It looks like it's super complicated and hard. It is not. It's one of the easiest, most satisfying techniques that I do. It's one of my favorite things to do, but it's not hard. The only thing that is challenging about it is you have to wait for your paint to dry, because you're going to be using a lot of the black gesso, and that you'll get impatient and it'll look really ugly, and you'll see what I mean as I go along. You're like, oh my gosh, that looks so ugly. How is that ever going to be gorgeous? And you'll see what happens. So we're going to do that, but I went ahead for the sake of time and I already started to prep my surface and start the black gesso process. I'm going to show you some more of the Lisa Kettell pieces after I get this next thing set up so it can dry as I show you. But I took a board like this. It's just an Artist Loft board. I bought a set of 5 for $7.50. You can get it, on sale with your coupon for 50% off at Michael's or whatever. I've already black gessoed the whole thing. I also have black gessoed the bottom of this, and I went ahead and black gessoed one of these pieces. So these are ready to go. The next thing I need to do is I want to add some texture to my canvas. So I found this stencil. I don't know who it's by. I'm so sorry. I found it in my stash, and I've used it a couple times, obviously. So I'm going to go ahead and take some modeling paste. I'm using the Bad Girls Couture modeling paste. Really creamy, smoothie, goes on beautiful. Creamy and smooth, not smoothie. And I'm going to just add some texture to this process, to this project. And then we have to let it dry, and we'll kind of move on to the next step. So I'm just going to take this with my arts, and I'm not going to put it everywhere. I'm just going to put it in some spots. So as I wait for that to dry, I am going to pull out these pieces because I'm going to use these on this as well. These are actually the Tim Holtz Ideology adornments. It's the Regal Royal line. I do not recommend, when doing this type of art, that you go out and buy pieces to do this too, because it'll get really expensive. I'm all about using them up. So don't freak out, but we are going to cover them in black. Now, there's a couple different ways to go about this, and I've done it a couple different ways. You can just put black gesso on everything before you adhere it to your project or canvas, or you can put the whole thing together and then black gesso the entire project. Usually I do the latter because it just saves time. However, in this situation, since I want to keep my beautiful jade, it's better if I black gesso everything separately and then adhere it to the canvas. And then I can go through on my canvas and just, do a little bit of touch up if I missed anything, because you really want this to have a nice coverage. You really want it to all be black. All right, so that all needs to dry. So this is dry. Just black gesso this piece now. And I'm just going to use this dabber. You could use a paintbrush, but I thought this might be better. I might change my mind. I'm going to dry that, and then we're going to come back and add the next layer, and then we'll need to let it sit for a little bit before we do the next thing. Taken a heat gun to this, and I have set it enough, dried it enough where I can move on to the next step. This in no way is cured, meaning it hasn't sat out long enough where it's permanent. If I work with this too much and get too boisterous with it and too rambunctious, it is going to smear and be a mess. So I'm going to layer on right now my brush, because I need my brush so that I know where to put my art stones. That's next. So I'm going to go ahead and just put some adhesive on this, get this down, and then I'm going to show you how to add art stones, which is another layer of dimension to this that'll make it super cool. So from here, I'm going to mix my next thing together, and that is I'm going to be using some regular gel along with the Prima art stones. Now I am going to black gesso over this as well, but I'm going to lay it out first and then I'll go through and black gesso it. So what you need to do in order to mix this is not fling it everywhere like I just did. Actually using the back side of this, because it won't all fit in here, the amount that I need. And if I do it here, I'm afraid it's going to go everywhere. So at least here, there's a little bit of a ridge. And I'm going to place some gel down first, like so. So it's going to dry. It's really cool stuff. It's a lot of people use it on their collages, but you can mix stuff in it like I am. I'm going to kind of make a area right there for me to dump some of these art stones in. But you can mix it, and it's a glue, it's a sealer, it's kind of everything. It's a very, very cool product. I use it a lot in my art journaling for collaging. And then I'm just going to start to mix this together. So you get kind of a pebbly paste. From here, I'm going to start to lay this out. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn off the camera for a little bit so this can dry and set up. It needs to definitely get dry. So this is dry enough for me to go ahead and put my black gesso on and to add my pieces, and then I'm going to need to let it sit up some more to put on that final touch that kind of brings the whole thing together. So to put on the black gesso, I'm just going to use this brush and I'm just going to pounce it, making sure to give full coverage of the white pebbles. Okay, so that's fairly dry. Dry to the touch, so I'll be able to move on. From here, I'm going to add my wings, crown, and skull. All right, so this is pretty, like, I don't see any white spots on this at all, which is what I need for this next step. And right now I know that this looks really, really ugly, really ugly. But this is when the magic happens, and this is when the beauty takes place. You're going to take a metallic paint. I'm using the Steampunk Copper by Prima. You can use other paints. This happens to be what I have on hand. And we're going to dry brush this on to our canvas. This is key. First of all, if you ever have seals that come in your paints, always, always, always keep them. Don't ever throw them out because it keeps your paint fresh and it won't dry out. Okay, so you're going to want to take a rather soft bristled brush to do this. If it's a coarser brush, you don't get quite the right effect. The important thing with this step right now is you have to do the dry brush technique. Think about when you cook. You can always add more salt to a dish, but you can't take it out. So my point is you can always go back through and add more paint to a spot, but you can't ever remove it. So we're going to bring up the beautiful textures in this project. So I'm going to dip my brush very lightly in the paint, get as much of that excess off as possible, in which I literally think that there's nothing left on it. And then I'm going to start to just go over my board and I'm going to watch it come to life. I'm just using a light hand with very little paint. And if I need more, I go back through, I do the same thing, I pick it up. And I just gently and carefully with the ever lightest hand, we don't want to go heavy-handed on this. If we go heavy-handed on this, it's going to not be right and we're just going to get a whole bunch of pretty copper paint, but copper paint everywhere, and that's not going to exactly give us the look that we want. And see right there, that wasn't quite dry enough. So if we run into a spot that's not dry enough, we need to leave it alone until it is dry, because that'll carry through to the rest of our project. You see how I'm just going back through and I'm just adding more color where I want more color. See how it's coming to life? I love how that turquoise pops. I'm going to put a little bit of copper on the turquoise too, just to get it to blend in. But I'm going to do that more towards the end of the project. So this is the finished piece, and I love it. It definitely has absolutely beautiful, stunning results. And it really looks like it's, you know, it was a lot harder to do than what it was. But you can see that texture that we laid down with the modeling paste, that kind of comes through. Even the canvas texture comes through, which I absolutely love. You want it to look kind of old and rustic, which it does. I was kind of inspired by those, like those boho skulls that you see, the bulls, like the steer skulls that you see these days that have like flowers on them, and they're put up. I was inspired by that, and that's why I went with this beautiful jade, and this skull was kind of to mimic that, although this is very different than that, which is okay. And you never really know what you're going to get until you start to do it. You know, it's art. It doesn't go as planned. But this is my finished piece. Please check out the links below for products, and make sure you go check out Lisa Kettell's line. She's fantastic. She has beautiful stuff, and you just browsing her store is everything. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. If you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and do so. Leave any questions or comments you have for me in the area down below, and I will try to get you the answers. Until next time, happy crafting.